I like to call myself an authorpreneur. Where I read, I just want to do a quick plug for writing reviews for authors. It's almost as valuable as buying books. Goodreads, Amazon, one sentence is good, a couple stars. It helps support the art and craft of writing. In 1848, Phineas Gage was 25 years old. He was charming, polite, and smart. He was the oldest of 5 siblings. He was skilled in managing work crews, and he was well liked. Then he had an on-the-job accident that changed his life and eventually made him famous. The story I'm going to read has graphic descriptions of his brain injury and other ailments that killed people during that time. The foul language comes from the change in his personality that happened after the accident. P.T. Barnum described Phineas Gage as the man with his brains blown out. His place in history is significant because the doctor that published the report about treating him put it in the Massachusetts Medical Society. It was the first medical case that connected the brain to the personality. And if you've ever taken a psychology class, you probably learned about Phineas Gage. I wrote the story for several reasons. One is I've got a larger project, the 4th book in progress. It's set in the same time period. It also deals with the railroad, and that one is set up on Donner Pass. The other reason I wrote this book is a couple years ago we went to the national parks and heard the park rangers talking about Native Americans that were starting to claim their remains that were in museums, placing them back in their ancestral burial sites. It always has seemed kind of creepy that, we look at bones. It's interesting and creepy at the same time, but also I just was very touched by that story of returning the remains to the burial sites. I wanted to bring a sense of his family, like living and breathing people, because he became a medical curiosity. Everybody studied his case, but I wanted us to think of them as people. So the story follows his life, and it's every known fact that I could find is included in it, but the, dialogue and personalities of the people are fictional. I've written it in 3 first-person points of view. It's Phoebe, his sister, younger sister, and her husband, David, who was a mayor of San Francisco at one point. The other interesting parts of the book, at the end, I've got links so you can go directly and read the medical report from the doctor to things about San Francisco, because that's where the family ended up. And I've got a map that shows places where you can go in San Francisco to find pieces and parts of the Gage and other pioneer families that were affected by the cemetery removal. On the day of Phineas's accident, a 13-pound tamping iron entered beneath his right cheek, punched a hole through the frontal lobe of his brain, and exited at the top of his head. Since 1867, his skull and the tamping iron have been on display at the Warren Anatomical Museum in Boston, Massachusetts. So then we're going to Phoebe's point of view at the time of the accident in 1848. Finn was hurt bad in an explosion on the railroad site. As soon as word reached us in Lebanon, Uncle Edward rode with Mother through the night to get to Finn. Cavendish, Vermont, where Finn rents a room, is 36 miles from our home in New Hampshire. When Mother arrived, Finn was bleeding, coughing, and sneezing. He was spitting up blood. Despite Finn's condition, he recognized Mother, even greeting her with an apologetic smile. Dr. Harlow told Mother that when he fished the bone fragments from his head, he put his fingers all the way through. He admitted surprise when Phineas remained awake, saying that he didn't feel anything. Mother saw the boys on Finn's gang when they came to check on him. Finn had recruited most of them from home. A few days after Mother's arrival, Phineas slipped into a delirium. She spent 11 days watching over him. Dr. Harlow said, "We couldn't bring him home. He was too fragile to move." By some miracle, or our fervent prayers, Phineas came out of fever. He didn't know how much time had passed. Joe, one of the gang boys, brought Mother home. She looked haggard. There were dark circles under her eyes. Joey told us, Dr. Harlow said she has to rest. She hasn't been eating or sleeping, and she can't stop crying. The doctor wants to know if another family member can come to help. Before he left, Joe gave us the news that Phineas had lost the sight in his left eye. He said the doctor wouldn't say what he thought of Finn's chances. Joe gave us a sad chuckle when he relayed Finn's pronouncements that he'd be back to work in a few days. Father decided that I would take Mother's place in Cavendish. Where others are squeamish with the necessary tasks of nursing, I can do it without fail. On our farm and among our neighbors, I've seen my share of illnesses, injury, and death. I set my brother Dexter's arm when he broke it, falling out of the hayloft. His screams were so loud I was sure the folks in the next county thought I was committing murder. I stayed with Priscilla Kiernan when she had dysentery with a foul-smelling bloody flux. I washed her and her bedclothes so many times that I thought about making her sleep inside the washtub. A year after Priscilla's dysentery, I was with her when she went into labor. Her little girl was born blue and deformed. Priscilla had wanted to hold her baby, but I covered it up, hiding its grotesque face, setting it on the sideboard in a hurry. By then, I had seen that Priscilla's womanly parts had followed the baby into the outside world. We buried poor Priscilla with her stillborn baby cradled over her heart. Father says, "In some ways, daughter, you are more like one of my sons. This is because I don't cry." I thought I was ready to see Finn, but I wasn't. My brother looked bruised, beat up, and grossly misshapen. The bandages covering his head were soiled, in need of change. The room was hot. I gagged when the sick, sweet smell of it got into my nose. It hit the back of my tongue, causing immediate cramping in my belly. Seeing him so savagely wounded drained my breath, rattled my bones, and turned my muscles into jiggling jelly. I clapped a hand tightly over my mouth, resisting the sudden forward surge of my neck and head. I wanted to run to the outhouse, but Finn's good eye was locked onto me. Father and I listened, and to the doctor asked, "Can you name these people?" He pointed to Father and to me. "Father and Phoebes," Phineas said. "I wish my room was more presentable." He swept his arm out, motioning to the stained linens, "But I have been busy." "Don't get up," Father said in a strained voice as he rushed forward, grasping Phineas on the shoulder. Finn didn't seem to notice Father's pained expression or hear the emotion in his voice. He took Father's hand, all the while looking at me. "Come on over, Phoebes. I got the crap knocked out of me, but I won't bite." "Phineas Pritchard Gage, injured or not, that is no way to speak in front of your sister." "The devil got into me, old man," Phineas said, when that son of a bitch Tamkin iron went through my head.